Hi and welcome to Whisky Shared. In this episode I'll be reviewing Jameson Caskmates Fourpure Edition. Hi, I'm Toby and you're watching Whisky Shared. So this review is for the Jameson Caskmates Fourpure Edition. If you're not familiar with Jameson, Jameson's the best-selling Irish whiskey, and it's a triple distilled whiskey which is made up of pot stilled and grain whiskey. And the Caskmates edition, of which I already have 2 bottles. The Caskmates whiskies, which I've reviewed before, which is part of a blind tasting. I'll put a link up there so you can take a look if you want. The Caskmates range is basically where they age Jameson triple distilled whiskey in beer barrels for some time, and that imparts flavour from the beer into the whiskey, and vice versa. The beer makers get some of the whiskey flavour in their beer. But this new edition, the Fourpure Edition, comes from the Fourpure Brewery. What they did was they took Jameson whiskey barrels, which are ex-bourbon barrels, and they aged the whiskey in those barrels to get the right flavour profile, so it imparts some of the characteristics from the beer that was previously held in it. So Fourpure tried several different beers of theirs until they found one which would impart the most impressive flavour, and in this instance they used their Shapeshifter West Coast IPA beer to finish this whiskey. What I like about Jameson generally is it's nice and smooth, it's very sweet, but what drew me to this instantly was the design. The label of the Shapeshifting River Monster on the front and the bold colours really stands out. And this is a limited edition, I understand, unlike the standard Caskmates, which are going to be around for some time. So, I've not tried this. I've no idea what it tastes like. So what we'll do is we'll open it, we'll nose it, we'll taste it, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Interestingly, of the standard Caskmates, the stout is my favourite. It's lovely and smooth and creamy, but the IPA one wasn't a big fan of. It's quite dry, a little bit bitter. So as this has been in IPA barrels, it'll be interesting to see if they're similar at all or if they're completely different. Right, onto the whiskey. Right, so what I'll do is I'll start off with the nosing. Right, instantly, and I don't pick this up on the standard IPA, instantly I get that really hoppy beer smell. There's quite a lot of alcohol vapour, but it smells like beer. Definitely wasn't expecting that after the standard Caskmates editions. Yeah, there's a really hoppy smell with that. You can almost sort of smell that sort of frothing beer that has just been poured from like a hand pump. It smells like a pub. That's really nice. But will it make good whiskey? To be fair, that really dominates. There is a hint of sweetness, but it's really hard to detect. Yeah, there's a hint of like caramel or vanilla. Yeah, that standard sort of Jameson sweetness is there, but it's really in the background. Right, let's see how it tastes. Okay, doesn't have much of a mouthfeel, but I find that's actually that's a good combination of the typical honeyed vanilla sort of Jameson sweetness with that beer sort of hoppy flavour, but the palate is nowhere near as intense as the nose. What you get on the palate is you get those flavours, but because they don't dominate and there's an equal level with that sort of, you know, that noticeable characteristic that you expect from a Jameson whiskey, I think they work quite well. I'm instantly getting quite a sort of old dry wood as like a finish on the palate. It's not too dry and bitter though, so even though you can sort of taste the old wood barrels now that flavour's starting to dissipate, it's not too dry and bitter like the standard IPA from Jameson. Let's have another sip, see if I pick up any more. Yeah, so it's very one-dimensional. It's a very simple whiskey. What you get is you get that Jameson taste. You get the honeyed vanilla sweetness, a little bit buttery. You get the alcohol vapour from the grain, because it's quite a grain-heavy whiskey. But what it's offset with is that beer influence. You get the hops, and you know, I've heard of people making whiskey with hops, because obviously it traditionally isn't. They only put the hops in if you're going to make a beer, and they say it doesn't work, but the influence of the hops on the finish is actually quite pleasant. It's not too dry. It adds a little bit of savouriness to offset that sweetness, and I think it really works. I don't know if it's something I'd reach for regularly, but obviously being a limited edition, I'd expect my bottle to last me a little while, but I think that would pair well with a beer. I think yeah, I think, you know, after you've had a couple of beers and you sat down, to sip a whiskey to carry on that flavour, but without that sort of bitterness and dryness that you'd get from the finish of the beer on the palate, I think that works really well. So yeah, it's a thumbs up from me. I quite like that. It's about £30 a bottle, so it isn't cheap, but I think that's good value for what it is, you know, for a limited edition run. And it actually works. The IPA standard version, probably won't ever buy a bottle of that again. But this, if it runs out and they've still got some, I'll probably buy another. Launcher. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not give it a like or a comment, and please consider subscribing for more videos like this.